Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. We will go ahead and get started with our fall career and college readiness webinar to share some important information to those of you who have students who are working on their post-secondary plans. Tonight, we have three special guests joining us to share their expertise in subjects that are important to families. We have Christina Campbell, Julia Renfro, and Travis Thornberry. We will go ahead and get into their presentations just as soon as we can. And then your host tonight is me, Mikey Evans, with the Mat-Su-Borough School District. I will round things out with an introduction to SCORE, so that if you have questions about what your student is describing from their work in SCORE during the 4Cs time slot, you have some more information about that. Before we get started, though, I want to invite Dr. Justin Ainsworth from the Office of Instruction to introduce us to the reason we're here, and then we will get into our presentation. So this webinar is being recorded. So if you have to leave at any time during this evening's presentation, we will post the video of tonight's webinar on the district website, and you will have access to it there to get any additional information that you might have missed. So I want to thank all of our presenters for being here this evening, and thank all of you from the community for participating in this event tonight. And we look forward to doing this again in the spring in order to update the community about anything that might have changed. So without ado, Dr. Ainsworth, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. And thank you to our guest speakers, our subject matter experts for carving out some time on this cold, windy evening to talk about post-secondary resources and post-secondary options for our students and our parents. I know this is a busy time for everybody with the end of first semester and finals and Christmas break. So just appreciate you guys taking a little bit of time, whether you're with us live or you're going to watch the recording later to go over these post-secondary resources. As Mr. Evans already mentioned, my name is Justin Ainsworth, Associate Superintendent of Secondary Schools in the Mat-Su-Borough School District. That means I work closely with a lot of our high schools and middle schools, and then also several of our magnet programs, such as the middle college, career and technical, CTE, ANSEP, and some of our other acceleration options within our district. I think as we jump into this, really the overall goal is it's a goal in our district. It's a goal of our leadership team, our superintendent, Dr. Trainee, is to provide more information, share information and resources with our students and our parents so they can make an informed decision about their post-secondary options. And whether that's college, career, or the military, those are all great options. We really want to provide access to information so that decision is truly informed. It's a huge decision for our kids, and hopefully it's something that they're starting to think about in middle school, early high school, and then they're getting to that senior year, and they've collected their information, and they start to feel comfortable as they narrow down that process. We really look at it in several phases. Phase one is sort of exploratory. They're in our system, they're in our schools. Hopefully they have these experiences where they get to say, hey, I think I might want to do that. I'm interested. Or conversely, they might have an experience and say, that's not something I'm interested, which is valuable as well. But just gathering information, research, and experiences are super important. We would consider this event and these resources as that preliminary research process. And then they're starting as juniors and seniors. Hopefully they're starting to compare their options and they're looking at the pros and cons of college, career, military, or they're starting to compare universities or trade schools. And then that second half of their senior year, the second semester, many of our seniors hopefully are narrowing those choices down, and then it's a culminating event where they're making a selection. And again, the goal is that selection really should be based on one, experience, and two, it's informed. They have information. It's a big decision, and obviously parents being involved and high school administrators, and a critical resource in all of this is the high school counselor, the high school guidance counselor. They're experts in all of these resources and can help guide parents and students in a meaningful way. So with that said, again, thank you for your time. Good luck with this process. This is being recorded. We anticipate we're going to push this out to our students in the 4 Cs and to our parents. And again, just a big thank you to our guest speakers who have carved out some time to be with us this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ainsworth. We'll go ahead and get started this evening with Julia Renfro. She is from the Alaska Commission on Post-Secondary Education and is going to speak to you about the AKCIS system that students have access to. So I'm going to stop share and let Julia take it away. Thank you.
Hi there. And yes, I have changed the lighting, and I apologize for that. It looks kind of silly in here. I am Julia Renfro, and the slide that had my name on there did show that I work for the Alaska Commission on Post-Secondary Education, ACPE. And one of the things that ACPE does is they do pay for a system like AKCIS, the Alaska Career Information System, my system right here. But our goal at ACPE is to make sure that every student, everyone in the state of Alaska knows what post-secondary education is, anything after high school, and that they know where it is, that they are able to get to it, and that they're going to be successful at it. So AKCIS is one of those systems. It's provided to everyone in the state of Alaska for free, sponsored by ACPE. And what is AKCIS? It is a source for finding out more about education and career-related information. Yes, you can find these things out on the internet, but when you save bookmarks, it makes it difficult to figure out who in your family saved them, why did they save that particular page, and this way every student does have their own portfolio, their own place that they keep these things, and we're calling this a personal learning and career plan. You'll hear about that more in just a moment. It's a way for them to plan and for them to get to and attain that post-secondary education that's going to open so many more doors for them here in the state of Alaska and around the nation or world. They also can store all of their research, like we mentioned, but also can warehouse all of the fabulous opportunities that they've had access to, that they have been able to go out on work-based learning opportunities like Dr. Ainsworth mentioned, that they have got to do volunteer work or paid work around the community, and they can keep that in one spot. So AKCIS, I'm going to feature the high school version tonight, but it does start as young as the 3rd grade. So I do have a junior version that focuses more on the questions. Who am I? Where am I going? And how do I get there? And then that grows up into high school, which then grows up into post-secondary and the workforce site types, all of which continue to be offered across the state through sponsorship from ACPE. So PLCP, a personal learning and career plan, this language comes directly from the Alaska Career and Technical Education Plan, and AKCIS is the recognized vendor for personal learning and career plans across Alaska. And like I mentioned about the junior version, we are answering the questions, who am I, where am I going, and how do I get there? This is what a typical landing page looks like for students. When we see the assessments, we're answering that question, who am I? And so students generally, if we ask them, they tell us something very cursory. We want to dive in, find out what motivates them, what really gets them going, what they're interested in. Where are their skills that are transferable? What do they find very satisfying? What have they learned? What kind of hobbies and interests do they have? But also their work values. What do they get most out of working in a community, working with others, or in a team? And we want them to be able to create their goals and set a vision for themselves. And so we do look at all of these goals. In AKCIS, every time a student saves, they are offered a reflection field. And so that reflection field, as the students use that, creates kind of a diary of how that student has progressed through the things that they've been interested in. And one of the really neat places to find that is in their goals and to see how their goals have changed over the years. And their personalities help us to see how this information all pulls together as well. And so when the students start to see this information about themselves, really kind of like, oh, that is me. I didn't realize and put two and two together for myself about these items. Then they can start diving into career clusters and occupations. And so we do focus on the 16 national career clusters in AKCIS, and this is just a list of those. And if we looked at a particular career cluster page, it would look like this, asking them questions about themselves with relation to that career cluster. And if they can answer yes to the majority of those questions, that's why that career cluster comes up for them. But it also talks to them, like Dr. Ainsworth mentioned, about helpful high school courses and pathways, and how they could get prepared for these pieces, so that they can ask their counselor, they can ask their teacher, and find out where are these opportunities around our community.
Julia, can I interrupt for a second real quick?
You sure can.
I just want to confirm that your Prezi is being shared right now.
I am sorry about that when I was pushing buttons. Thank you. I just start going, don't I?
No worries. I think you can pick up from where you left off. We'll be sure to share contact information if folks have questions about the first couple of slides that you shared there.
I appreciate that. So yes, the career cluster page, it's like this one here. Then as they move along in AKCIS, we do have the pathways, the national pathways, and the Matsuboro is able to put in pathways that are specific to your students within the MSBSD school district. We also can look up occupations either through a flow from the assessments that we went through so far and looked at, talked about their personality traits. They can also go straight to a list of occupations such as this one and see what's going on. There's over 650 occupations listed in AKCIS, not only the National Department of Labor name for that occupation, but also the name that we would see that occupation listed as far as a job posting or how we would call it, even if we were working with someone in that job. This is a typical occupation page. And so everything that happens in this big part of the page is change depending on which one of the tabs down the side that they happen to be looking at. So this first page is just at a glance, it's a snippet. We do include wage information. The wage information is updated annually. Not only has Alaska's data from the Alaska Department of Labor and Workforce Development, but also includes the United States data as well as other states. So students can compare that and find out, where is the lifestyle living wage going to be for them in that occupation, as well as videos and employment and outlook information that gives them a forecast over the next 10 years. The education tab has a lot going on in that. There is a course planner, and so students can put in the courses they have completed, but also what they plan to take while they're still in their K-12 system, but also what they're planning for post-secondary. So as they start getting into some career and technical work, they start looking at the university systems, they can put those kinds of pieces in there, or any certificate programs. The application tracker in AKCIS is very handy because it keeps all of the information for emails, applications, deadlines, suspenses. Am I on the first draft of my essay for this school or scholarship? What scholarships am I applying for? All in one place. And when we talk about schools and training facilities, like Dr. Ainsworth mentioned, we are talking about everything post-secondary. So whether it's on-the-job training or OJT, certificate programs, associate degrees, apprenticeships, the military, or as we go through associates, bachelor's, master's, so on and so forth. That information is in AKCIS. But the really nice thing about that is that AKCIS actually does go below the bachelor's level. Many systems start at the bachelor's degree and go up. But every student, your students, those of you who are participating in this presentation, every student in our district is going to take a different kind of path to get to the occupations they want to have. And we want to make sure that they understand what those would be and make those very accessible and help them be successful at them. Under the employment tab, a lot of people think that these things would be more just towards going to find work, which they definitely are. But when you're preparing resume information, that gets students ready to write personal statements, which a lot of scholarships are either asking for a resume or a personal statement. Their school applications are asking questions about themselves. And when they put that information all in one place and they see it written down, it gives them a new sense of self-confidence. We're using AKCIS and the personal learning and career plan to create self-advocates, students who can ask for what they're looking for and they can tell others about it. Also going to help them prep for interviews, and so that we know that's for scholarships, that's for school programs, that's also for employment as well. And then the like we mentioned with work-based learning opportunities, informational interviews, job searching, and those kinds of things are all available to the students as well. But a big place that the students do a lot of work is in My Portfolio. And this is where everything that they have saved goes. The easiest navigation here. So even in this short presentation, I've shown you quite a bit of information just so far. But as parents, you can help your students look through the checklists. There are grade appropriate checklists. There are also checklists like developing your resume. Instead of looking at the whole concept of a resume, breaking that down into pieces and parts. And each of these items is a hyperlink that takes you to the exact spot in AKCIS where that happens. So it makes the navigation very easy for the student. The sort and assessment results, something for you to discuss with your students too, and kind of draw reference to things that they do in their everyday life. But the sort and assessment results are under My Portfolio. Very easy to get to, very pleasing to the eye. You can see them visually, but also the ability to compare occupations to each other line by line, and other items as well. But the personal learning and career plan is there that brings out highlights. They can store samples of their work, as well as links, like if they've created a LinkedIn account or something, and they can create their resume, like I mentioned before, and have that year over year that they can get back to it. That is a personal learning and career plan in a very small nutshell. You can always contact me and find out more information about AKCIS or ask your student. They do log in using Clever. It makes it single sign-on. But even just going to the akcis.org website, you will have my contact information right across the top of the page. And so I do look forward to talking with you and any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Julia. That was excellent. Christina Campbell.
As mentioned earlier, my name is Christina Campbell. I'm with the Alaska Commission on Post-Secondary Education, along with Julia. Only I focus more on the financial aid, primarily the Fafsa, but not just the Fafsa. Our department does a lot of helping students fill out the Fafsa and their parents, or apply for loans or search for scholarships. We do all of the initial steps that students have to do to apply for financial aid to help pay for college. And when we talk about college, we mean everything, all kinds of post-secondary education. That could be 2-year, 4-year, technical training, anything that costs money for students to get any kind of training or knowledge or degree or certificate to get them into the workforce. That's what financial aid is. It all starts by filling out the FAFSA. That's the first step in the financial aid process. It's not the first step in the going to college process. That obviously would be choosing your career, picking your college, and most importantly, applying for admissions. But once you apply for admissions to a college, then one of the requirements will be to fill out the FAFSA, which is what we're going to talk about right now. It stands for Pre-Application for Federal Student Aid. I mention that primarily because there is a website that will try to charge parents and students. I think it's in the neighborhood of $99. It's a free form. It's offered by the federal government, so there's no need to pay for it. If you do happen to be at that website, it's at the .com website as opposed to the .gov. then it'll still go to the same place. It'll just charge you. So you needn't worry about your application not getting processed correctly. But it's offered by the U.S. Department of Education. It comes out once a year, every October. So once a year, the student wants to fill this form out. And it's preferable to fill it out between the months of October and I say January, really through the middle of February, for the best financial aid available. You can fill it out up to even a week before the student plans to start college, but it's not wise to do that, because in doing that, the later you wait, the more you exclude your chances for the free money in terms of grants and scholarships. And then sometimes the student is just left with nothing else but loans. So the sooner you can throw your name in the hat, or the sooner the student can throw their name in the hat, the better off they are going to be. So I like to remind students that when you get your PFD, get in the habit of that month filling out your FAFSA. If that helps the student to remember that that's when they need to do it, then pick something. But October, November, December, January are the best months to fill it out. And they want to start filling it out their senior year. So a good rule of thumb to remember is about 10 months before the student plans to start college. And college academic years, as far as the FAFSA is concerned, work just like academic years in school. They start in August and they go all the way through the end of July. So seniors this year, for example, that will traditionally be starting college or technical school next fall in the year 22, they're going to fill out the FAFSA now, hopefully now, or anytime before the end of January. And they will be filling out the FAFSA for the 22-23 academic school year. The FAFSA uses 2 years prior taxes, which means 2 years from the academic year they plan to go to. So for seniors this year, they will be using 2020 tax information from both their parents and themselves. You can advance the slide now. What is the FAFSA used for? One form, 3 buckets of money. It will determine what the student will get from the federal government, what they will get from their state that they're a resident of, and the state that their college is located in. So federal aid, state financial aid, and individual campus-based aid. Now, the federal money, right when you hit the submit button on the FAFSA, the student will know what they're going to get from the federal government. What they will wait to find out what they're going to get is the state aid and the campus-based aid. And like I said, most deadlines are February 15th, so students get their name, get their FAFSA submitted and filled out. It's usually the state, and scholarships and grants are usually first come, first served, or based on need. So again, do it as soon as possible. To fill out the FAFSA, and you can advance to the next slide. This is what the website looks like. It's at studentaid.gov. It was formerly fafsa.ed.gov. You can advance to the next slide. It's pretty simple. You just go to this website, you go to the top right-hand corner and create an account. When you create an account, you're going to create what's called an FSA ID. Both the parent and the student need to create an FSA ID. And I know parents usually say, well, why on earth do I have to fill one out if the FAFSA is for my student, which is true. The reason parents have to fill out or create an FSA ID or an account is because they have to sign for the student. Unless the student is married, has a child in the military, or a veteran, or is at age 24, they are considered dependent, which means at least one parent must create an account and sign and fill out the FAFSA along with their student. A couple of tips to keep in mind when you're creating these FSA IDs is to use unique email addresses. In other words, don't commingle and share emails. Sometimes moms or dads will, use their email to track and monitor everything. That's not wise to do that, because if the student ever is gone at school and they need to log into their account and they don't know how, everything will go through the parent's email if they can't remember their password, which I can guarantee you 90% of my job is troubleshooting people that can't remember their FSA IDs. It's a form you only fill out once a year. It's not easily remembered. So use unique email addresses, check and double check, triple check social security numbers and birth dates. Everything is cross-checked with the Social Security Administration. So if something doesn't match, you can hit the submit button until you're blue in the face. It will not submit. And oftentimes student may miss deadlines. So triple check all of that information. You can go to the next slide. And then you'll come up with some security questions too. Those security questions are primarily so that you can break into your own account if all else fails. And then you're only allowed to log in 3 times a day before it'll lock you out for 24 hours. So if you've tried 3 times because you can't remember your password, just wait before you panic and then try the next day. You can fill out the Fafsa online. That's the best way to do it. You can also do a paper version, but I don't recommend it because it takes a long time to get the information back. It's very quick if you do it online. And you can use a desktop, you can use a mobile friendly right off your iPhone or Android. And there's also an app that you can use. Navigating through the Fafsa is pretty simple. It's very self-explanatory. What's difficult is how to answer some of the questions so that you maximize your potential for the free money and or additional scholarships. And there's lots of little tricks in there that may throw a person out if you don't answer the questions correctly. So if in doubt, you can go to the next slide. I highly recommend that you fill out as much of the Fafsa as possible that you can. If you run into a question, just save the Fafsa. It should save automatically. You can always give us a call. We're a free agency. All I do is help students and parents fill out their Fafsas. There's no cost to anybody. You can simply go to our website shown on the screen, acpe.alaska.gov, and you can just scroll all the way down to the bottom till you get into the black. Click on the Success Center tab, which is our department, my department, and then you can it'll take you right to this page. You can just click on the orange, you can book me, and it'll open up a calendar. You can pick the day and the time. I respond within 24 hours and schedule a personal Zoom appointment. And then we can either fill out the Fafsa together, or you can call me with the number on the screen and we can fill it out over the phone. It works a lot easier if we schedule a Zoom so that I can see what's going on, especially if we have to troubleshoot. So if you have any questions, I don't want to go over my time allotment, but if you have any questions about how to answer anything on the Fafsa, or what you're supposed to include, or what's an asset, or if there's something you don't understand, then by all means, give me a call and I can help you get the correct answer for it. And I look forward to working with you guys if you have any questions.
Christina, thank you so much. Up next, we have Mr. Travis Thornberry. He is a compliance officer from the University of Alaska, Anchorage, to introduce us to NCAA eligibility and issues related to that. Mr. Thornberry, thank you for being here.
Thank you, I appreciate it. So like Mikey said, I'm Travis Thornberry. I'm the compliance officer at UAA. This is my email address, my phone number. Anybody can contact me at any time. There's a lot of different things that can happen as far as the eligibility center, and I'm not going to be able to cover those all tonight, so feel free to reach out. Next slide, please. Okay, yeah. So Division I alternative standards, there's 4 possible academic certification outcomes for student athletes. Early, academic qualifier, academic red shirt, and non-qualifier. You do not want to be the bottom 2. Because that means that you will not get to participate your first year. And also it makes you less attractive to coaches and schools, because they're going to pay a lot of money for you to go to school there. And if you are not able to compete or even practice, then you're going to be less attracted to them to recruit. So I kind of mainly want to focus on the top two. Next slide, please. Division I early academic qualifier. So your pre-7th semester, if you complete 14 core credits and you have a 3.0 GPA or better, you will be good with the NCAA. You'll be able to receive athletics aid, practice, and compete. Next slide. For those 14 core credits that you need, you will need 3 years of English, 2 math, 2 science, and then you can put 2 additional years of either English, math, or natural physical sciences, and then 5 any other core class that your school has, and you can get with your academic advisor or school counselor to let you know what those other classes are. Next slide, please. To be a qualifier, you need to have at least 10 of those core credits before your 7th semester. Overall, you will need to complete 16 core credits and have a GPA of 2.3 or better. You also need to submit proof of graduation to the Eligibility Center. If you complete all of that, you will be eligible for athletics aid, practice, and competition. Next slide. For the 16 core credits, you will need 4 English credits and 3 math credits, and that's kind of the main difference between the two. Also, they put in 2 social sciences that will be required as well. And so if you're going to go to the Division II, they have 3 possible academic certifications: early academic qualifier, and partial qualifier. The top 2, you will be able to compete and receive aid your first year. Partial qualifier, you can receive aid, but you cannot compete, and you can practice with the team. So if you don't meet the requirements of the top 2, you will be classified as a partial qualifier. And again, especially with D2 schools, there's very limited resources, and it will be very hard for you to get recruited if you're a partial qualifier. So I highly recommend doing what you can to become a qualifier. Next slide. So in Division II, the early academic qualifier, to meet this is the same as D1. The only big difference here is instead of having a 3.0 GPA, you can have a 2.5 or greater. So next slide. And just to become a qualifier, you don't have to meet that 10-7 rule like you do in D1. Just have to complete 16 core units, earn a 2.2 GPA, and submit proof of graduation to the Eligibility Center. This here is kind of an example to go by your 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. You can see here where they have English through each year, math through each year. Get with your school counselor to find out exactly what courses will count towards your 16, and then make a plan. Just keep in mind that, you know, if you're going to go D1, you have to have the 4 English. If you're D2, you only have to have 3, but you know, you might as well go ahead and take 4 English unless you're a math heavy student. Next slide, please. During COVID, they came out with this automatic initial eligibility waiver. So students who initially enrolled full-time in 21-22 and 22-23 will receive an automatic initial eligibility waiver if they provide proof of graduation, meet the 10-7 rule, and present 13 or more core classes with a 2.8. And I must note the 2.8 GPA, that's not going to be an overall GPA. That's going to be with just your core classes. So make sure to do very well in your core classes. And Division 2, it's the same as Division 1, except you don't have the 10-7 rule. Next slide, please. Standardized test. Since COVID, they have dropped this. They've excluded it from the initial eligibility criteria. And that's going to continue through the 22-23 academic year. Right now, they are talking about just dropping test scores altogether. But if you are a senior this year and you're going to be a 22-23 student athlete, you do not need the standardized test for the NCAA. However, you do need it for colleges and scholarship programs. This may still be required. So make sure whatever college that you want to attend, make sure you contact them and ask them about, do I need a test score or to get certain scholarships, because you can combine academic scholarships with athletic scholarships. And so it may be a requirement. So just pay attention to that. Next slide. Oops. These are some helpful resources. The eligibilitycenter.org, that is where you will register with the Eligibility Center. If you're going to be a D1 or D2 athlete, I recommend going ahead and doing that if you hadn't already. If you're kind of on the fence and you don't know if you're going to go to a D2 or D3 school, you can still get on there and just make like a profile until you kind of decide which one, because it is a $90 fee in order to register with the Eligibility Center. Also, you'll see here nationalletter.org. That's for the National Letter of Intent. It is a good resource to go to for anything, especially if you're going to sign an NIL that way, or I'm sorry, an NLI. This will give you a lot of information about the do's and don'ts during that time. There's also, you can research or look at the NCAA. There's the guide for college-bound student athletes. I highly recommend looking through that. It's a lot of good information in there as well. Once you register with the Eligibility Center and you've paid your $90, they will issue tasks to you. A lot of questions about what you've done while you've been in high school. They're trying to determine what your amateurism status is going to be. And so make sure that you stay on top of that. But just because you've completed all the tasks doesn't mean that you won't receive more tasks later. Also, you can request final amateurism after April 1st. So if you have all your stuff submitted, everything's good, April 1st, you should be able to ask for that final amateurism certification. And another thing too, make sure after you've graduated high school, have your school send the final transcripts and test scores after graduation, because the NCAA is going to want that. You don't want to wait until college has started and then this stuff still hasn't got there, and your compliance officer is bugging you to death to get that in, and it's also dependent on your aid that you're going to receive as well. So if you don't have that, a lot of schools won't release the aid until you're a final qualifier. So they need that in order to process that. So that's all I have for you guys today. If you have any further questions, please just reach out, email, call, whatever you need. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thornberry. I appreciate it. Up next, again, your host tonight, this is me, Mikey Evans. If you have any questions or concerns, comments, feedback about tonight's webinar, there is my email address and phone number. Please feel free to ask your questions via email or make a phone call. We'll certainly do our best to get you an answer. Up next, we're going to talk just briefly about SCORE. This is a new product that the district has brought on to help students navigate this post-secondary transition. I liken it to a LinkedIn account for kids. So this is a one-stop shop for students to log into to conduct some interest surveys similar to what is available in AKCIS, but is maybe more specific to colleges and universities around the country. It aids a student in their college search by helping them to align their personal interests with programs and degrees that are actually available at the institutions they're interested in pursuing. This system also helps in application tracking. So the student, parent, and counselor team that's working on getting that kid into college all gets to see where the student is at in pursuing that goal. So, you know, when the student says, "Oh, I applied, that's done," both their counselor and parent can have visibility of whether or not that's actually the case. It's additionally an excellent communication tool, allows for counselors to make students aware of deadlines that are approaching, of college recruiters that might be visiting a campus or hosting a webinar similar to this one. So it's really a great resource for students and parents and school districts to help students find the post-secondary opportunities that best fit their needs. The website for the product is located down there at the bottom, and I encourage parents to familiarize themselves with it beyond what I'm going to show right now. What you're going to see right now is a 4-minute overview video that gives you an idea of the kinds of things that are available for you as you help your student navigate this process.
Hi, and welcome to SCORE. In this video, we will show how parents can use SCORE to research colleges and add them to their students list, calculate school cost, answer surveys, and communicate with school counselors. When you first log in as a parent, you'll be taken to your dashboard where you'll have insight into your student's application status, college search, trending colleges, and those that have been suggested to you based on your student's interest. In terms of search, parents can complete a preference and advanced search and use the college comparison tool. This is similar to that of the student, so maybe parents can better suggest schools to their student. It's important to note that parents cannot manipulate their student's search or profile in any way. They can only make suggestions. To see a more detailed view of a college, you can click on a school name. This will bring you to their profile, which contains virtual campus tours for those partnered with UVisit, statistical information, student life information, and videos provided by actual students, as well as academic information, cost and financial aid information, and location and transportation information. Where SCORE really sets itself apart is the wall that populates for each college, which gives students a social media-esque experience where activities, clubs, and so on are tagged, and clicking into a tag will also show other schools that have these clubs and programs. Again, really encouraging that exploration. Under the Sessions tab, you will see any upcoming events, information sessions, or virtual events that this college may be hosting. You'll also be able to view and toggle between your students if you have more than one on SCORE. Parents can review the student's full profile, as well as see their My Colleges list. You will also be able to see scattergrams as well. Back on the dashboard, you can view helpful links and survey information, as well as your cost calculator. We understand that the cost of college is not normally what parents think, so to assist with this, SCORE provides financial tools to help better accurately estimate and calculate the cost of attendance so they can incorporate this into the college selection process. We have a few methods of cost estimation that we have broken down. Average net price, according to what the colleges are reporting, income-based net price, which allows parents to select from 5 brackets according to the Department of Education, manual entry, where parents can manually enter the custom price estimate if you have it, and finally we have the custom price estimate. This allows parents the ability to calculate the EFC directly into SCORE by entering some family-specific and financial information. When they do so, we're going to give them their custom price estimate. Having access to these cost calculators within SCORE can save parents the hassle of going website by website to use various net price calculators. This is not a replacement of a net price calculator, but SCORE's option is 95% accurate. Once complete, we will incorporate this information into the college search so that parents will always see the custom price in comparison to that sticker or list price. And up at the top right-hand corner, you can click to view your message center, as well as any notifications that you may have. You can also access this from your Welcome dropdown, which also includes a survey tab in case you have any assigned to you.
If you have questions about anything that you've seen this evening, please don't hesitate to reach out by phone or email. Your counseling team, as Dr. Ainsworth mentioned at the beginning of our presentation, is well-versed in many of these subject areas and certainly knows all the folks that have presented this evening. So if they're not able to answer your question, they will definitely put you in contact with the subject matter expert who can. Want to thank everybody for being in attendance this evening and participating in this webinar. We are committed to helping each one of our students and their families identify the right post-secondary plan for them. And if there's anything that we can do in the future, please let us know. Please let your counseling team know, and we will work to help you with just about anything we can. Thank you so much for your attendance tonight, and we will look forward to working with you in the future.